The notification pinger on my phone was the sound that ended my marriage, though I didn't know it at the time. It was 9:45 p.m. on a Tuesday, and I was sitting in our darkened living room, the silence of the house weighing heavy on my chest. My wife, Diane, had been working late for 3 weeks straight, supposedly grinding away at a merger that was going to make our year. The photo she sent was a classic, a selfie of her looking exhausted, a half-eaten salad on her desk, and the flickering lights of the city skyline behind her. "Missing you, honey. Stressed, but almost done. Save me a glass of wine," she wrote. I stared at her beautiful, tired face, and for a second, I felt like the luckiest man alive. Until I zoomed in. You see, I'm a forensic data analyst by trade. I spend my days looking for the things people try to hide in the digital shadows. In the reflection of the window behind her, just past her shoulder, I didn't see an office chair or a filing cabinet. I saw a very specific, carved wooden ceiling fan, the kind you only find in high-end coastal properties. And that was just the beginning of the lie. Before we peel back the layers of this digital betrayal, make sure to hit that subscribe button, smash the like, and drop a comment below. Have you ever caught someone in a lie using technology they didn't understand? Let's get into the details. My heart didn't race, it went cold. It was that terrifying, surgical stillness that comes when you realize the person sleeping next to you for 12 years is a stranger. I downloaded the raw file of the photo to my laptop. Diane always forgot that her Live Photo setting was on, and more importantly, she never bothered to turn off the location metadata on her new iPhone. I opened the Properties tab, my fingers hovering over the keys. Latitude, 34.0195 degrees north, longitude, 118.4912 degrees west. I plugged the coordinates into a satellite map. It wasn't the downtown business district. It wasn't anywhere near her firm. The red pin dropped right onto the shoreline of Malibu, specifically a gated community known as Paradise Cove. My breath hitched. I knew that address. I had seen it on an old, crumpled piece of mail 3 years ago that Diane claimed was a misprint from her college days. It was the vacation home of her ex-boyfriend, Travis, a man she swore she hadn't spoken to since the day we walked down the aisle. The office in the photo was a lie. The work was a betrayal. The missing you was a knife in the back. I sat there in the glow of my monitor, watching the little blue dot of her phone sit perfectly still in a house that wasn't mine, with a man who wasn't me. She was 20 miles away, likely laughing about how easy it was to fool the boring tech guy. But Diane forgot one thing. I built the smart home we lived in from the ground up. I didn't just know the passwords. I owned the architecture of our life. I looked around our 5-bedroom house in the suburbs, the house I'd paid off 3 years early, the house she'd decorated with my sweat and blood, and I felt a sudden, violent clarity. If she wanted to be in Malibu with the ghost of her past, I was going to make sure she had no reason to ever come back to the present. I opened my administrative console. Most people use their smart home apps to turn on the lights or check the front door. I used mine to see the truth. I pulled up the history of our connected car. 2 hours ago, she hadn't driven to the office. She had hit the Pacific Coast Highway at 70 miles per hour. I then checked our shared cloud storage. She thought she was being clever by hiding folders, but I had a master key. I found a hidden directory titled Project Alpha. It wasn't a business merger. It was hundreds of photos, scraps of a secret life that had been happening right under my nose. Weekends when she was visiting her mother. Dinners when she was with the girls. All of them featured the same tanned, arrogant face of Travis. The betrayal was systemic. It was a cancer that had metastasized while I was busy planning our retirement. My hands were steady as I began to type. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to beg. I was going to execute a digital eviction so absolute, she wouldn't even have a key to her own memories. I started by partitioning her access to the main server. Then, I triggered a request to a high-priority courier service I used for work, the kind that guarantees 1-hour pickup for urgent legal documents. Only, these wouldn't be documents. I stood up, walked into our master closet, and pulled out the large, industrial-sized suitcases we used for international travel. I didn't feel sadness anymore. I felt like a machine. I began to pull her designer dresses off the hangers, the ones I bought for her, the ones she wore to impress a man who didn't care about her soul. I packed with a cold, mathematical precision. Every shoe, every pearl, Every memory she had left in this house was going to meet her at that beach house before the sun came up. The clock on the mantel ticked toward 11 p.m., a rhythmic heartbeat in a house that was rapidly becoming a crime scene of a dead marriage. I moved through the rooms with a ghostly efficiency, my shadow stretching long against the walls. Each item of hers I touched, a silk scarf, a velvet jewelry box, a collection of expensive perfumes, felt like a foreign object. I wasn't just packing, I was purging. I was erasing the Diane who lived here, leaving behind only the cold, hard vacuum of her absence. I took every single thing that belonged to her, from her high-end skincare to the laptop she'd forgotten on the nightstand. If it touched her skin or held her secrets, it was going into the crates. This is where things get really intense. If you're enjoying this story of high-tech justice, make sure you're subscribed and have that bell icon turned on. You won't believe how he handles the next 20 minutes. Let's keep going. While I waited for the courier, I went back to my terminal. It was time to pull the digital plug. I logged into this smart life ecosystem that governed our entire existence. With a few clicks, I revoked her administrative privileges. I watched the status icons on the screen turn from green to a stark, cold gray. Her phone would no longer unlock the front door. Her tablet would no longer access the security cameras. Even her smart fridge account was purged. I was essentially turning her into a ghost in her own home before she even stepped foot back on the property. Then, I did something a little more surgical. I accessed her Find My Device network. Since our accounts were linked for safety, I could see her phone sitting perfectly still at the Malibu coordinates. She was likely lying on a plush sofa, sipping wine with Travis, laughing at a joke while her phone rested on a mahogany coffee table. I didn't send a message. Instead, I remotely activated the lost mode on her iPad, which I knew was sitting right next to her. A high-pitched, piercing shriek would now be echoing through Travis's beach house, a digital alarm bell signaling that the hunter had become the hunted. The doorbell rang. It was the courier, a young guy named Brian who looked like he'd seen everything. He looked at the 6 massive, overstuffed suitcases and 3 industrial crates stacked in the foyer. "Late-night move, sir?" he asked, wiping sleep from his eyes. "You could say that," I replied, my voice sounding like gravel. "This is a priority delivery. It needs to go to the Paradise Cove address I provided in the app. No signature required. Just leave it all on the front porch. And I mean all of it." I handed him a crisp $100 bill as a tip. "And Brian, there's a note taped to the smallest suitcase. Make sure it's facing up." The note was simple. It didn't contain a long-winded explanation or a plea for answers. It just said, "The GPS tag in the office photo was a nice touch. Since you love the view in Malibu so much, I've decided you should enjoy it permanently. The locks at home have been cycled. Don't bother coming back. Stay with the past, Diane. I'm moving into the future." As Brian loaded the last of the crates into his van, I felt a strange sense of lightness. I walked back inside and initiated the master lockdown protocol. This was a feature I'd built for high-security clients, but tonight, it was for me. The steel shutters on the ground floor slid down with a heavy, metallic thud. The smart glass in the windows frosted over, turning the house into an impenetrable white cube. I was safe inside my fortress of truth, while she was out there, drifting in a sea of lies. But I wasn't done. I sat back down at my desk and opened the shared bank portal. Diane had a secondary spending account that I'd been funding for years. I watched the transactions in real time. A charge for a luxury dinner in Malibu had just cleared 30 minutes ago. She was using my money to feed the man she was betraying me with. My jaw tightened. I didn't close the account. That would be too easy. Instead, I set a limit of exactly $1. I watched the screen, waiting for the inevitable. I knew her phone would be blowing up soon. I knew the realization would hit her like a tidal wave. I opened the live feed from the Malibu beach house, not because I had a camera inside, but because I had access to the public traffic cam at the entrance of the gated community. I saw the courier's van pull up to the gate. I saw the guard wave him through. The delivery was minutes away. The physical evidence of her exile was arriving on her lover's doorstep. I leaned back, the blue light of the monitor reflecting in my eyes. I could almost hear the sound of those suitcases hitting the deck. I could almost see the look on her face when she realized that her working late photo hadn't just exposed her location. It had exposed her entire soul. The silence in the house was now absolute. broken only by the low hum of my server rack. On my screen, the courier's GPS icon turned green and then vanished, delivery complete. In the distance, metaphorically speaking, I could feel the explosion. I sat perfectly still, my eyes fixed on the connected device's dashboard. Then it started. The dashboard lit up like a Christmas tree in a power surge. Diane was trying to log in. This is the moment where the hunter realizes they've been trapped in their own cage. If you want to see exactly how a master of data dismantles a liar's life, stay tuned. Don't forget to comment justice below if you think she's getting exactly what she deserves. First, it was the front door smart lock. Access denied. Then, the garage door opener via her car's dashboard. User unauthorized. I could see her digital fingerprints frantically hitting every virtual wall I'd built. She was panicked. She was likely standing on that beautiful Malibu deck, surrounded by her own suitcases, staring at a phone that had suddenly become a brick. Suddenly, my private line buzzed. It was an unknown number, likely Travis's phone. I let it ring, and ring, and ring. Then came the text message. Mark? What the hell is going on? My iPad started screaming, and now my phone won't open the House app. Why is there a van here with all my clothes? This isn't funny. Answer me. I didn't type a word. I simply highlighted the office selfie she had sent me earlier, circled the GPS coordinates in bright red, and sent it back to the unknown number. The 3 dots of her typing appeared instantly. They danced for a long time, disappeared, then reappeared. I can explain, the message finally said. I just went there to get some closure. I was going to tell you tonight. Please, Mark, don't do this. I'm cold and I don't have a key to these crates. Closure, I whispered to the empty room. It's the favorite word of the guilty. I looked at the metadata one more time. The photo had been taken at 8:15 p.m. The live photo portion, the 3 seconds of video captured with the still, showed her laughing and clinking a glass of champagne with a man's hand visible in the frame. That wasn't closure. That was a celebration. I decided to give her one last look at what she was losing. I remotely activated the external speakers on the Malibu property's smart system, which, ironically, I had helped Travis install years ago as a favor when they were still just friends. Diane. My voice boomed through the speakers on that distant beach, sounding like the voice of a disgruntled god. The explanation died the moment you hit send on that photo. You didn't just lie about where you were. You lied about who we were. You thought I was the tech guy who only looked at screens. You forgot that screens are windows. And I've been looking through yours for a long time. I watched the traffic camera at the gate. A sleek black SUV, Travis's car, was speeding toward the exit. She was fleeing. She was coming back to the suburbs, back to the house she thought she still owned. She thought she could cry, manipulate, and talk her way past the steel shutters. I checked the security perimeter of our home. Every sensor was green. Every camera was recording in 4K. I opened the guest access log and saw that she had shared her digital key with Travis months ago. My blood boiled. She hadn't just cheated. She had invited the enemy into our sanctuary. I didn't just revoke the key. I set a logic bomb. If that specific digital key was ever detected near my geofence again, it would automatically trigger a call to the local police department reporting a domestic trespass in progress, complete with a pre-recorded statement and a file of her Project Alpha betrayal as evidence of motive. I saw her car turn onto our street through the neighborhood's license plate recognition software. She was 5 minutes away. She was coming to a house that was dark, silent, and completely wiped of her existence. She was coming home to a man who no longer existed for her. I walked to the kitchen and poured that glass of wine she had asked for in her text. I sat in the dark, sipping the expensive Cabernet, watching the headlights of her car sweep across the frosted glass of the front windows. The engine cut out. The car door slammed. The real show was about to begin. The headlights of Diane's car died, plunging the driveway into a cold, blue darkness. Through the high-resolution infrared cameras, I watched her silhouette march toward the front door. She looked disheveled, her expensive heels clicking frantically on the stone path. Behind her, Travis's black SUV lingered at the curb, the engine idling like a nervous beast. She reached for the smart lock, her thumb hovering over the scanner. I watched the red ring of light flash 3 times. Access denied. She tried again, pressing harder, as if physical force could bypass a digital lockout. This is the final showdown. The moment when the lies hit a brick wall, literally. If you've enjoyed this journey of high-tech retribution, don't forget to subscribe, like, and leave your final thoughts in the comments. Would you have the courage to walk away this cleanly? Let's finish this. She began to pound on the door. Mark, open this door. I know you're in there. You can't do this to me. Her voice, muffled by the reinforced steel and soundproofing, sounded like a distant, angry ghost. I sat in my chair, the glass of wine in my hand perfectly steady. I tapped a command on my tablet, and the external intercom crackled to life. You're trespassing, Diane, I said, my voice calm and detached. I've already sent the digital evidence of your merger with Travis to your firm's ethics committee and your parents. I figured since you're so fond of sharing photos, I'd help you distribute the ones from Project Alpha. I heard a sharp intake of breath through the microphone. She stopped pounding. Mark, please, that was a mistake. We were just talking. You're ruining my life over a photo. No, I replied. I'm reclaiming my life because of a truth. You didn't just break a vow. You tried to make me the architect of my own humiliation. You wanted me to pay for the roof over the head of the man you were sleeping with. That's not a mistake, Diane. That's a lifestyle. And as of tonight, your subscription to that lifestyle has expired. I watched on the screen as Travis finally stepped out of the SUV. He looked uncomfortable, hovering near the edge of the driveway, checking his watch. He didn't look like a hero coming to rescue his queen. He looked like a man realizing he'd just inherited a very expensive, very angry problem. Diane, let's go. Travis called out, his voice thin. The cops are going to show up. Shut up, Travis, she screamed, turning her rage on him for a split second before turning back to the door. Mark, everything I own is in those crates on that beach. I have nothing. Exactly, I said. You have exactly what you brought into this marriage. Nothing but a talent for fiction. Now leave. If your car is still in this driveway in 60 seconds, the logic bomb triggers. You know how much the local precinct loves high-tech domestic calls. The silence that followed was heavy. Diane looked at the frosted windows, her reflection probably staring back at her in the dark glass. She realized there was no talking her way out of a system built on logic. She turned, her shoulders slumped, and walked toward the SUV. Travis didn't even open the door for her. She got in, and the tires screeched as they sped away into the night. I watched their taillights disappear on the neighborhood monitor. I then executed the final command. Purge all user data. 10 years of photos, shared calendars, and digital footprints vanished into a sea of zeros and ones. I walked to the master bedroom, my bedroom, and felt the incredible, sprawling space of the house. It wasn't empty, it was clean. Author's conclusion. In the modern world, we leave a trail of digital breadcrumbs wherever we go. Diane thought she was the lead character in a clever drama, but she forgot that in the digital age, the truth isn't just a feeling, it's a data point. Mark didn't use a private investigator or a shouting match to win. He used the very tools Diane relied on to deceive him. This story is a sobering look at how technology can be a shield for the honest and a trap for the unfaithful. When you live a double life, you eventually run out of places to hide, especially when the person you're lying to is the one who holds the master key. Thank you for watching this incredible story of betrayal and high-tech justice. If you want to see more stories where the underdog uses their wits to come out on top, make sure to subscribe, hit the like button, and tell us in the comments. Was Mark too cold, or was this the perfect revenge? See you in the next one.